Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Autopilot video, and today I thought it would be nice to make one in the rain. And as you can see, I have it set to intermittent second intermittent setting, or the more frequent intermittent setting. And it seems to do pretty well with rain. I've had it in torrential downpours and it still worked okay. And if you notice that the windshield wiper from the passenger side actually goes over the housing, so it does wipe and clean the area right outside of the camera, the autopilot camera. And maybe I'm hearing some music from another car. Someone's playing their music pretty loud. But yeah, there's a lot of things that you won't notice about Autopilot until you actually review the videos after. And I've noticed that when you make left or right turns or lane changes, you're gonna notice that Autopilot highlights all the cars that are in the way. So yeah, I'll show some of that later if we get into some traffic. But as you notice, this is traffic and I'm using Autopilot, and it should follow the car in front of me. And now it changed back to white, so it's the normal Autopilot using the lanes that I can see. Once I get too close, it'll change back to a blue car, which is basically meaning it cannot see any of the lane markers and it will rely on the car in front of me. As you can see, the windshield is peppered with some drizzle. It was raining a little bit harder before, so just to show you how Autopilot works, I've treated this windshield with Rain-X. I think I have to treat it again soon because it doesn't look like it's it is beating, but it's not as nice as it was when I first put the Rain-X on. So just to give you guys another update, my car has been in the shop for the last 2 weeks, and as for that stupid Falcon Wing Door issue where it's trying to tear itself apart, if you don't look, there's a new Tesla on the other side. Yeah, if you haven't seen that video, feel free to go and take a look at it. What they did was they readjusted the latch so that it didn't happen anymore at the service center. But unfortunately, when I got it back, it probably lasted 1 day before it started doing that stupid shit again. So it's still not working, and they didn't have time to do any other work. I did mention something about my motor going kind of weird when I do shifting from forward to reverse and reverse to forward, and it would make this thumping noise. It's never been there since day one. And after they fixed my loose motor mount that was on that side of the car, the right side, they replaced the motor mount, and that's when it started happening. So something that they did over there obviously screwed up the motor somehow. So now the rain is getting more, so I'm going to turn it to the setting where it wipes. And so what happened was, after they replaced the motor mount, I think what happened was that they stripped it, because the way they described it to me was, oh, there's nothing wrong with the motor, we're gonna swap out your motor anyway. Oh, there's a part here where it dips down. It looks perfectly fine to me, but what happens is Autopilot goes nuts here. I'll try to make another video where Autopilot, where I go through this underpass a couple of times. It loses the lines for some reason, even though the lines are really clear. It loses them. Anyway, I digress a lot. But basically, when they replaced my my motor mount that was making that weird dinging noise, like a mechanical loose noise. They found that it was a loose one. They replaced it. When I got it back, I got this weird, stupid noise when I shift into forward or reverse to do a broken K-turn or whatever. It would make a thump noise. So the thump noise was a concern to me because it never happened before. And what it turned out to be was that when they were changing that, someone in the service center stripped the motor mount on the motor itself. So they keep on trying to stress to me nothing was wrong with the motor. It wasn't the motor, it was the threading on the motor. So they had to replace the whole entire motor. So I'm gonna make a video of what they actually did, because they did quite a few things over that 2-week period. They didn't have a chance to fix anything else except my Falcon Wing Door, which now went back to its default behavior, which is it tries to rip itself apart. And now I'm not using that door at all until I have another another appointment with them somewhere at the end of the year, and that's where I'll try to fix the other issues that I've come into. Oh boy. Yeah, so when it was in the shop last time, not this time, when they were trying to fix that issue, someone stripped the motor threads. So basically it was not really mounted securely, the motor. That's why I was hearing that weird noise when I would shift back and forth, is because they had fucked up my car, basically. So the other thing that happened while I was in the service center was that while they were replacing my motor, they screwed up the coolant hose. So when they shoved the motor back in, they either crinked it or tore the coolant hose. So when I thought that they were gonna give me back my car after a week, they had to call me and said, "Oh, sorry, we're waiting for one more part, which is a coolant hose." And they didn't tell me what happened until I actually got there to pick up my car after two weeks, when they finally fixed everything. So what I think happened from what they described to me was that what the hell? Oh no, Autopilot. Okay. Autopilot is not available for the rest of my trip. What happened? Anyway. So I think it's not confident enough right now. I can't really see what the message is. Auto steer temporarily unavailable. Okay, so yeah, it is because it is not confident enough. because I guess the windshield isn't clean enough for it to engage. So anyway, back to the story about the maybe if I lower this, it will come back. Yeah, there it goes. So yeah, I guess when your windshield is going quick and it sees it will not allow you to engage autopilot. There goes another thing that you probably need to learn. But once autopilot is engaged, it will stay engaged. So what happened was that with the motor issue,
police reported ahead.
Yeah. So what happened with the motor issue is that yeah, someone from the last time. Oh, anyway, so what I thought happened was they went to replace my motor, and after they jammed the motor in, somehow they tore one of the coolant hoses, and I get a call saying, hey, there's a problem. We found that we need a extra coolant hose, so we'll have to keep your car here for another couple of days depending on how long the coolant hose takes, blah blah blah. And what I think happened was they jammed the motor in there, and they fucked up the coolant hose that was going to the motor. And what happened was that they screwed up the coolant hose, and upon test driving it, the car probably said that the front motor is overheating or something like that, because they have diagnostics running when the car when they're testing the car after they've done some major work, right? So that's probably how they figured out that, hey, there's a screwed up coolant hose and we need to replace it. So anyway, so I had to wait another week for them to get the coolant hose and get that replaced. And once that was replaced, they did another test drive and they were able to return my car. So now I don't have that thumping noise that I was getting when I shift from forward to reverse. They replaced a whole shitload of stuff. There's so many parts. Part of the motor replacement is not even funny. So the other thing is Beyond finally put out a sort of a problem video, but it really isn't a problem video because he titles it supercharger changes or something like that, and let's slow it down a little bit because there's too much of this traffic. So towards the end of that video, he goes into maybe like a 10-minute explanation of what his problems were with the Model X, and he's just rambling off what he remembers. He definitely didn't prepare to talk about it. So he had a motor stutter, I guess, when under hard acceleration, and he said that his friend Jorgen or somebody, I'm not good with Swedish names, I mean Norwegian names, so yeah, I don't know who it is that had the same issue. So that's what he attributes to common issues. I don't think it's common just because two people had it. I did find another person who contacted me that has the same issue, so maybe it is a common issue, and it has to do with something happening at the assembly line where they screwed up all these cars with the front motor, Either that, or they designed the mount wrong, where it's not tight enough, causing the stuttering. I don't know. This is all conjecture, or this is what I think is happening. It isn't happening to everybody, and there was one guy who had a rear motor failure at 2 weeks into his ownership of the Model X, which is really suspect. So let me move over.
Watch out, vehicle stopped on shoulder ahead.
And then you can see what happens when I move over. So let me move back over, and then you can see that it highlights it. So anyway, he also went into some other issues where his, I guess, driver door latch, or something to do with the driver door. He wasn't able to open it. Some other issues. I forget what the issues are, but you can go and watch it if you want to see him describing some of his issues. It's not all of them. Yeah. Let me get a little bit closer. I'll change it to a setting of 1, and I want to get close enough so that when I change, you guys can see what happens when I change to another lane. Because as you can see, I'm seeing a lot of cars right now, and once I change, come over. You can see that it highlights a lot of the cars. So I want to go back on this side, just to show you what happens, because when you guys are changing lanes and whatever, you're not looking at the console. This gives you a chance to look at it in the comfort of your own home and not be in danger staring at the front console. So if I come back over this way, I should be able to see. People are probably wondering why I am changing lanes so often, but yeah. So it performs pretty well. It looks like if you have your wipers on and it's wiping pretty quickly, it will not let you engage autopilot. And the way around it is to make your wipers intermittent, and then it should autopilot should come back, and then you can use
Watch
it.
out, vehicle stopped on shoulder ahead.
Right now, forward radar is working pretty well because it's straight, right? And it sees through rain and fog. My visibility is kind of hampered, as you can see probably in the video, but radar goes through fog and all this mist that the other cars are kicking up. So it's actually, there goes another Model X white on the other side. So it does. I feel during this type of situation where you can't see in front of you, even if you cannot engage the autopilot, you should probably engage traffic aware cruise control, because that will keep you at a good distance away from whatever's in front of you, so that if you don't see the car, at least the radar sees it, so that it will stop for you. It will, if everything comes to a stop and then you all of a sudden come you know, into like a total blackout area where it's all foggy, and you hit like a wall of cars, well, you're shit out of luck, because the emergency braking only reduces your speed by 25 miles. But generally, it's still better to have traffic-aware cruise control enabled, even if you don't have autopilot, and it should help in this type of driving situation. You would think that the windshield being so dirty, it would be really bad, but it seems to be able to pick out the lines, and with the radar and the camera is still able to pick up some of the cars. You'll be amazed how many, under what conditions they are able to still pick out cars, because the NVIDIA demonstration was pretty interesting. The Drive PX that is in the new Teslas, the deep learning is able to pick out way before you can see anything in fog conditions. Just with, I guess maybe it's because of their LiDAR, because they had 4 LiDARs, one going forward, one going backwards. I think there was 2 going forward, 2 going backwards, nothing on the side. So they were probably able to pick it out because of the LiDAR that they were using, since LiDAR is able to pick out 3D images much better than radar. So look, it's still driving really well, and you probably couldn't see a thing through the windshield, right? It's still able to steer. I'm very cautious now because it really isn't all that visible, but it's still able to, in certain conditions, it still works really well. But you just have to know in what situations autopilot will fail. It will fail like a miserable bastard. Some instances it will. I'll probably make a video of when it fails and why it fails. I've still yet to figure out why in certain instances where it does fail miserably. But look, it's like, this is like probably one of the worst conditions to drive in, where visibility for a human is like really bad, but autopilot is still able to keep in the lane. So it's not all bad. It's just under certain situations it sucks, and you as a driver owe it to yourself to learn the nuances of when autopilot works for you and when it doesn't. And you know, for those situations where it works really well, you can probably trust it to take your eyes off the road for a second or two, and you'll be fine. But in certain instances, if you take your eyes off the road, and you come across a situation where autopilot doesn't work well, you're screwed. You're getting into an accident for sure. So take it for what it is. Autopilot, again, everyone should know that it's not full autonomy, right? And with version 8, they keep on having to make you use your steering. I mean, hold the steering wheel. So that's a bitch for some people. But other times it's fine. I mean, I'm coming up right next to a truck, and guess what? I can't see anything when I went through that. So anyway, this is me signing out, and hope you enjoyed this video, and like and subscribe. Thanks.